Welcome to Spicy Toast Gaming. Thank you for tuning in to another Spicy Toast video, and this is going to be a roundup video for the entire expansion. So going over the event path, what we thought, all the new content that they added to the game or lack thereof, and then ranking the champions on where we think they'd be on the tier list. We've now completed guides for all of them. We've had all of them defeat Aurelian Soul, and we're just going to see what we think after playing them for a lot longer. So first, let's start with the event path. So we do have this, we do have this loaded. We have gotten every single event path and been playing before they even started doing the events. This event was actually pretty decent for Path of Champions player. There was a lot more shards, and there were shards for pretty much every champion that was added. Previous event tiers only would have shards for normally 2 champions, and then there'd be some of these vaults that contain shards for fragments. Now, in this event, I believe this is the only golden vault that was in here. So they actually just gave you champion fragments instead. So here we have 10 Ekko. A little bit before that, we had, here's some Pyke. So pretty much every champion had some shards in here. So it was much less RNG. They had the 1 gold vault. I believe that was the only vault. There was a reliquary or 2 in there for trying to get some relics. But generally, this expansion or this event path just gave you shards and took away the RNG of the vaults. Now, if you had good luck, then yes, having more vaults in the event path would give you more shards than you probably got in here. But we all know how the RNG is. You're much more likely to get duplicates for champions you already have than champions you don't have. So getting rid of that RNG and knowing how many shards you're going to get for the event path was very nice. So there's a good amount of shards in here. There was 3 quests, I believe, that they added when the event launched that all gave you shards as well. So as a Path of Champions player, the event path was pretty good. There was some nice card backs, card skins in there as well. In general, I was pretty happy with it. Really helped me get the champions up to the 2 stars to make videos for them. So if you haven't gotten it yet and you're wondering if it's worth it, I would say it's probably worth it, at least for me. Obviously, it's different for everyone, but as a Path of Champions player, I thought the amount of shards made this event worth getting for the premium tier. Taking a look at the Path of Champions and the champions themselves. So unfortunately, we didn't get any region added. We didn't get any new legend levels, and the reward for completing the event path, the relic that we get, that's kind of one of the worst relics, at least in my opinion. So the relic was Guardian Angel. Start adventure with 1+ revive. My opinion, I think this is a pretty garbage tier relic. I'd rather have a relic that helps me win the game than have to rely on an extra revive. So that was pretty sad. Previous adventures or previous event paths, we got Gale Force, which is probably the most impactful relic added to the game ever. And then for the other event path, we got the Berserker's Buckle, which is pretty good, definitely very helpful on certain champions. So the fact that for this event we got Guardian Angel definitely was a letdown, and the fact that we got no new content other than champions, pretty sad, definitely disappointing. I was hoping for the new region, or at least a couple more legend levels. If you're not someone like me, though, that plays constantly, then you're able to catch up to us players that play all the time, and so you'll probably hit the level 30 before the next expansion, because that's about a month away. Taking a look at the champions now, we're going to start off with Aatrox. So Aatrox, star power, when equipped ally strikes, reduce the cost of a random card in hand by 2. Then his 2-star +1 starting mana, game start, create in hand 2 random Darkin equipment. He is quite strong, a bit RNG. With his star powers, sometimes you're going to be able to play Aatrox on your second turn. Other times you are going to have to play him at the 6 mana. So in my previous video talking about the champions and my predictions for their rankings, I put Aatrox in the A tier, and I was thinking he might be able to break into the S tier with his 3rd star power. We have him at the 3 stars, but sadly, in my opinion, he is still just A tier. So very strong, a lot of fun, the best equipment generating star power in the game, not even close to anyone else. Very solid champion, very cool powers, but A tier only. I don't think he breaks into the S tier. Pretty much any S tier champion would end the game potentially before Aatrox is played for that 6 mana. So, good champion, A tier. Let's move on to the next. Up next, we're taking a look at LeBlanc. Her star powers. Round start, create a fleeting sharpened resolve in hand. It costs 1 less. The 3-star version makes it cost 0. That sharpened resolve is 3/2. Very powerful, burst speed, great combat trick. This is pretty much going to win you and counter every single fight. So either make you kill a unit that is blocking you and survive, or be able to block with a unit that the AI doesn't think you'll be able to. Very powerful, simple to use. The 2-star, best 2-star in the game, in my opinion. If you've leveled a champion this game, when allies attack, summon a attacking ephemeral LeBlanc. This LeBlanc will have all the items and relics that your LeBlanc has. So very strong. You're able to abuse this in so many different ways, such as if you have different powers or relics that when you summon LeBlanc, she strikes either enemy units or the Nexus. Every time you summon this LeBlanc, all of those will trigger. So you can use her to essentially wipe out the enemy board or just obliterate the Nexus. Definitely S tier, strongest champion added this expansion, and I think she's in the running for just the best champion in the game. If you don't have a Noxus champion already, she is definitely the best Noxus champion. Pretty easy to do well with, but there's a lot of complexity in how you can use her. Very fun, highly recommend. Definitely S tier. Let's take a look at Nasus next. So we do have him at 22 and 2 stars. His star powers, round end, grant the strongest ally 2/2 for each unit you've slain this round. Very thematic for Nasus trying to scale up. Nasus himself scales, gets 1/1 every time you slay a unit during the game. 2-star, +1 starting mana, round start, grant the strongest enemy 1/1. So this is a permanent debuff, so every single round, whoever the strongest unit is, permanently is getting their power reduced by 1. If you get his 3-star, round end, grant your strongest ally 2/2 for each unit you've slain this game, so just a doubling effect of the first one. But then you have, once you've slain 10 plus units, summon the restored Sun Disk. Now this is currently bugged and probably won't get fixed till the next expansion, or at least the next patch. Even if this was in the game though, you're normally not getting that 10 unit mark for enemies dead or enemies slain. So this isn't going to normally happen. What this is supposed to do though is have Nasus hit his 3rd level up. So as an Ascended, he has 2 level ups. One, he's struck for 10 damage. He gets Spell Shield, and now enemies have -1, and he gets 1/1 as far as power. If you see the restored Sun Disk, then he goes to his Ascended version, his 3rd level up. He gets a bunch of extra stats, and now enemies have -3 power. So just making him more of a game-ending champion. Normally this wouldn't happen, even if the 3rd power was working, but right now it's bugged, so it's not working at all. He is pretty good, better than I was actually expecting. His deck actually works together fairly well, and he's a pretty good support champion. Since he's coming down at the end of the game, you're normally not playing him regularly or for a very long time throughout the game. So having a cheaper support champion that you can buff up through your star powers and Siphoning Strike is pretty good. I just played an Aurelion Soul match where I had Fiora as my support champion, and that worked out very well. So I thought he was going to be lower, but I'm actually going to put him in the B tier as well. I thought he was probably going to be in the C tier, but I think he's solidly B tier. Again, just not as strong as the S or A tier champions, but pretty good. Still not the best champion in Shurima, in my opinion. I would say that's probably Talia. But he's a solid, fun champion. I like his star powers, but I would just put him in the B tier. Up next, we have Pyke. So we do have him at the 3 stars, 22. So his star power, game start, grant Mariner's Ruse to 4 random allies. When you get the attack token, grant it to 2 more and draw 1. So Mariner's Ruse, it's a item, gives your unit 1/1 and lurk. This can stack up on the same unit, but hopefully it'll get spread out to multiple units. And then every time you get the attack token throughout the entire game, you grant it to 2 more and you draw 1 extra card. So you're wanting to get extra rallies or scout to get the attack token multiple times or more often, so you're continuing to buff up your deck and draw more cards. 2 star, when an ally dies, create a random lurker that costs 1 more in your deck and grant it 1/1. So this is decent. With these combined, you're able to play a lot of your units and not need to worry about them dying, because you know if they die, you're going to get another lurker in your deck, and you're going to draw more cards, so you can play more of your cheap lurker units, and it's probably going to be fine. Pretty powerful champion, especially with Pyke himself, able to clear the board with his effect of when he levels up. He strikes the weakest enemy when he kills a unit, and this can happen multiple times. So he is a ramp deck, but I would say he's probably one of the best ramp decks, and that you don't have to wait to the late game. You can try to get going and kind of win in the mid game. So very fun. He is someone, though, that you probably want to get to 3 stars. I would put him solidly in the B tier. A lot of fun, very strong, but just not quite as consistent and powerful as the S and A tier champions. Up next, we have Kindred. So we have Kindred at level 26 and 2 stars. If we take a look at the star powers, we have round start, summon a prey, which is this 0 cost, 1 health unit. If you already have one, instead grant your prey last breath, deal 1 to the enemy nexus. The 3 star just increases that to 2 damage. Now this effect stacks up, so every single round, if you have a prey on the board, it's going to be getting this buff. So if it can survive for longer, then when you finally do kill it, it will be able to deal a massive amount of damage. And this stacks up on multiple prey, so you have other cards that can summon this unit as well. So you can sometimes have 3 or 4 prey on the board, and they are all stacking up with this damage. And then you're able to just kill or sacrifice them all, and suddenly chunk down the enemy nexus massively. Your 2 star round start, create a spirit journey in hand. If you already have one, reduce its cost by 2. So kill a unit, then revive it. You can use this on your own units or enemy units. There's tons of ways you can use this, such as stopping an enemy from getting a buff, stopping an enemy while they're attacking, so that they essentially reset back on their board, but their attack is over. Using it on your own unit to save them if an enemy's targeting them with a spell. There's tons of ways to use this. Kindred is very versatile, but not that easy to play, and not as strong as a lot of other champions. If you're looking for a champion where you need to earn your victories, but when you do win, you feel very accomplished, and you always have a way to try to get out of most situations. You always feel like there's some way you can pull off the win against impossible odds. Kindred is definitely that type of champion. So very fun, a well-made deck, but on the weaker side. So I would actually also put Kindred in the B tier. Pretty much most of the champions that have been added this expansion in my opinion, are just fine. They're not terrible, but they're also not amazing. So Kindred also in the B tier. Again, last and least, in my opinion, we have Ekko. So we have him level 20 and 2 stars. If we take a look at his star powers, when you see a unit in a predict, grant it 1/1. If you get him to 3 stars, then you give it 2/2 and a random keyword. So pretty basic. You're trying to predict when you see a unit, you're going to be able to give them a buff, which is pretty nice. 2-star when you get the +1 starting mana and your created cards cost 1 less. So very basic, but Ekko is able to use that in a lot of interesting ways. He's a very unique champion. He plays and feels very different, but he is a lot weaker. In my opinion, he feels a lot like Lee Sin. Lee Sin can be absolutely amazing if you get a couple of the right star powers on him, but if you just play Lee Sin without any star powers, you don't get lucky, he feels pretty bad. Ekko is kind of the same way. If you don't get lucky with star powers, he feels pretty terrible, but if you do get lucky, you can use a lot of star powers in ways that no other champion can really use them. And so you're able to pull off some crazy combos, much like Kindred. If you like a champion where it's going to be more difficult, but there's a lot of interesting, unique things you can do, Ekko's the way to go. I think he's a lot weaker than Kindred, but he is very interesting to play. So not that strong, but a good addition to the game anyways, gives you a very unique play style. But in my opinion, Ekko is definitely in the C tier. Not as consistent as most champions in the game, and very reliant on powers. All right, that's it for the champions and my final thoughts on this whole expansion. In general, it was decent, kind of disappointing without getting any more legend levels or any new content other than the champions. Though, still thankful that we got the champions, and none of them were terrible in my opinion. We don't have another situation with a champion like Ornn or Yuumi where I feel like they are just a bit too weak or have too much anti-synergy built into their kit. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, definitely like and subscribe, and I hope you have a great new year. Thank you for watching that whole video, and thank you to everyone who has subscribed. We've hit over 1,000 subscribers in under 3 months. Thank you so much for the support, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, like the video. We're putting out daily videos covering everything Path of Champions related. I hope you guys have a great end of your year and a great start to your new year.